Welcome to GradCast, the official podcast of the Society of Graduate Students at the University of Western Ontario.
And I guess on a related note, there are a number of resources that we actually took, a number of us took a chance to look at over the last week, and we're going to be talking about right now, which I think are a direct result of this shifting culture right now. So we already mentioned the MyTax Scholarship, which basically is, they'll help fund you even. So I don't know if people are aware, but at least in my field of study, there's a research stipend given to the graduate students, and that is expected to be paid for by their supervisors. So I work in a lab. I do work at the bench that gets the research done, and my supervisor gets publications out of that, and they're expected to pay me a certain amount of money. A MyTax scholarship holder, their supervisor may have to pay them substantially less or even nothing at all because the industry partner will pay for their education and degree. So it makes it cheaper for the institution, cheaper for their lab. So that reflects, I guess, our modern society. But there's a couple of other resources that are just online tools that are designed to help graduate students figure out what they want to do and also figure out how to get to where they want to be. And even to link them up with different companies and things. So first one we can talk about real briefly is called the Versatile PhD. Did any of you guys take a look at that?
I did.
All right.
The Versatile PhD. So that was a really interesting website. I actually went and made an account. And it will ask you about your degree and where you went to school. And then it will try to match you up with jobs and sort of talk about the types of jobs you can get. So there are, within the website, there are spotlights where you can go and read about someone's career who's had a similar degree as you. Or you can look at resumes of people who have applied to jobs and gotten them and what they had and what skills were needed for that job. And even just looking through the lists of jobs, because I put in all my own information, all these things were popping up in various fields, depending on what category I clicked on. Like if I went into the biotech sort of tab, I could look at all the biotech jobs that would be available. And you can kind of click through them and see what the names of them are. Then you could do a little bit more research on your own about what that job entails. And it just sort of made me think that there's a lot of opportunities out there for me once I'm done school, if that's the type of thing that I want to be doing. So I encourage other people to look at that. At the very least, you can get some job titles and then do your own research. Another thing that I would even recommend is maybe using one of these tools as a starting off point and then going to a trusted mentor within the university or even outside of your field and just sort of talking to them about you as a person if they know you and then these types of jobs and getting a bit of input from them as well. So it's a great starting off point. Maybe it might not be how you find your exact job, but definitely gave you some ideas.
I would add that the Versatile PhD website does highlight an extremely, if you hate the internet for some reason, the one thing you can take away from the Versatile PhD is that instead of looking at I'm doing PhD in X, therefore I must work in X field, is grossly simplistic. And you can really look at the stuff you're doing and realizing you are learning valuable skills. Like my experience with the Versatile PhD was less optimistic than Adrian's because I think I'm in the history, and history has much less in the way of opportunities. But if you look at it in different ways, you can kind of look at yourself as gathering skills rather than focusing on a very specific thing. For example, one survey of CEOs looking for what they were looking for in new recruits, new hires in their company, were a list of skills that applied to essentially what you learn doing a history degree, the critical thinking, good writing skills, and clear communication. Those are the three things that history teaches you, and so you have to step outside of your discipline, but see what skills you're taking away from that. And when you do that, you can actually open yourself to a lot of really interesting careers and jobs that you might never have considered before.
Yeah, it is nicely eye-opening. And I find it, unless you have a good chunk of time to sit there and look, actually, it can be a little overwhelming even. You say, oh my gosh, there's so much more than I was expecting, so you got to sit down and take some time.
And can I just ask a question? I didn't sign up for the Versatile PhD. I signed up for another one of the services that we'll get to. This is also for just master's holders, right? It's for any graduate student.
Yeah, I think it's just for, if you have a degree, you can take a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next one, which you did look at, you told me was My Grad Skills.
Yeah, I Googled it as Grad Path. Yeah, it's like UWO My Grad Path. Okay. And I made an account on that. I kind of wish, after hearing you guys talk about Versatile PhD, that I had chosen to pick my account in that one. I'm not saying it looked bad, but I was really looking for something where I could input what I'd done in school, and it would output the skills that I could list on a resume or jobs that would fit my education. Instead, My Grad Path has like additional courses, online courses that you can sign up for and do, and then reference on your resume. So it is a really good website in that it helps you gain a lot of skills. It just wasn't what I expected when I signed in.
Yeah, and My Grad Skills, the website, actually, there's like a course on. And these are just online. You do it at your own pace, whenever you want, teaching you how to make a good resume, how to prepare for an interview, things like that are just skills that you would not necessarily learn as a grad student, but that would be valuable to landing a job.
Well, exactly. And I found a link in there that I thought was kind of perfect for me. It was just something like non-academic job search. Okay. So I was like, oh, great, it's just going to give me some good instructions on how to look for non-academic jobs. But it was like, oh, you've signed up to be in a class. You have to do this many hours of it or something like that to get the credit. And it's like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I should say, you don't also necessarily need to abandon academic work. The other thing I wanted to throw into the mix here while we're talking about jobs after grad school is that there are plenty of academic jobs that are not professorial positions. There's a lot of academic jobs at the university that you might not know exist. And also, there's even more academic jobs than you know of if you don't keep track of things like the listservs based on your department and things like, or your discipline and things like that. I've found out about many a conference or job opening based on that.
All the hidden gems.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the last one that I don't know if anyone else took a look at it's called Magnet. Did anyone have a chance to look at that one? You did? So what did you think about Magnet?
Magnet is an extremely fancy version of Monster.ca, but for people who have a bit more advanced skills and things to work on. So Monster.ca, if anyone knows that, is basically putting your resume up and both employers and employees finding each other through an internet website, which is a novel concept. Magnet kind of puts more of the onus on the employers, and this is for people who have more valuable skills. And so you put a profile up there, and you list the kind of credentials you have, and this is usually for people who have very advanced degrees. And then when companies, especially large corporations, are headhunting for people with very specific skills or very, very high expertise, they go to services like this that will help them headhunt for the right person for the right job. And this is where the kinds of jobs where we're scouring the country looking for someone who knows how to do this thing. And if you are part of the group of people who know how to do a thing very, very well, you might find yourself getting a call from this website. That's the nut of what Magnet does.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression that I got. It's trying to link employers and people with highly specific skills. It is kind of funded through the Ontario government, from what I understand, and it's mostly Ontario-based as well, from what I saw. But I don't have any experience really using it. I made an account and took a look around. Anyone else have anything to add about the resources? I guess other resources, which have come up time and time again already in this discussion, include the University Career Center and university counselors. The one thing that I have to say about that is they are somewhat more specialized still, or I guess not specialized enough for grad students. So a lot of what goes on is geared toward undergrads. It's more general, and what I think they need to do in the future is going to be get a couple of people on staff who are really, good at knowing what specifically a graduate level degree might help you with that an undergrad wouldn't, and giving specific counseling to graduate students who tend to be a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and just, I guess it's a specific niche that needs to be filled within the student centers here. I guess beyond that, I just want to mention a few statistics, which I found a little bit surprising even. But really to wrap things up here, this is just from Statistics Canada website from 2013, just an article that I read on there. And basically, employment rates among people who only had a high school education is about 56%. If you had a bachelor's degree, that goes up to 82%. Master's degree, 82.5, so it's not significant. It's not like hugely higher, but it's higher. And then PhD level is 83%. The difference became the match in the job they were doing with the degree they had. So if you had a master's or a PhD, people who have those levels of degree reported a closer match to the job they were doing and the degree they had. So if you do a bachelor's degree in evolutionary biology, you're less likely to be working in some kind of field that might have something to do with evolutionary biology than if you have a master's or PhD in a field such as that. And then the other thing that changed was the earning potential. So the median earnings of a person with a college diploma was reported to be $41,600 a year. If you had a bachelor's degree, that went up to $53,000 a year. With a master's degree, that went up to $70,000 a year. With a PhD, it was $82,000 a year. And that's not including people who are doing postdoctoral training, because postdoctoral training tends to be paid a little bit less than that. So
a little bit.
Job.
Well, a little bit less than 80 grand.
About half of that. So it brings the average down a little bit. But that's not to say that we should all feel entitled for having a graduate level degree and we think that we deserve that type of salary, but just the fact that the earning potential is a little bit higher if you have more education. And that's the trend across the board still. Anyone have anything to add to those statistics? Any comments on that before we wrap things up?
I'm always skeptical of employment statistics because of the thing that they like to fudge those numbers to keep them below 10% in order to make governments look good. But I would say that it definitely answers kind of back to what I said at the beginning, which is that we as people who are pursuing advanced degrees are going into a very turbulent time when it comes to the economics of the war of Canada, North America, the West in general, and we are you did not waste your time doing your PhD. You are in or doing your master's. You're in a privileged position, and you're going to get better odds of doing great things with your degree. And the effort and the drive that you put and the self-direction you put yourself through also puts you in a good position to become an entrepreneur. So, new social network, do it or something.
Awesome. Well, I guess for me, I'm doing a PhD. I love what I'm doing right now, and I'm lucky right now, I feel, to have the opportunity to kind of look around and see about other career paths to see what I might be interested in and think about it. So it's been really nice to be able to do that so far, and I'm going to continue to explore my options. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for listening to GradCast's official podcast of the Society of Graduate Students here at Western University. See you guys all next time.
That's all for this week. If you want to send us some feedback, or if you want to come on the show yourself, email us at gradcastradio@gmail.com. Be sure to hook us up on social media. On Twitter, we're at GradCastRadio, and look up GradCast Radio also on Facebook. If you want to subscribe to the podcast is located at gradcast.podbean.com, and it's on iTunes. And while you're there, why don't you leave us a review? It really helps us out. We'll see you guys next week.